Welcome back, Crip Crew, and welcome back to another edition of Dark Reflections. This is an extremely special one for me, as always, pretty much as always. One of the first bands we ever had on this show. Looking back, I recently looked back and I realized how long ago they had been on. It's kind of fucking insane to me. But of course, I'm talking about A Fitting Revenge and their brand new album, Omnipresence. Omnipresence, out as of this release yesterday. I meant for this to come out today, the same day as the release, but it ended up coming out yesterday, but that's okay. They now for the record, there were A Fitting Revenge was obviously just on the show on June 30th. Like that's when the episode got released. But they were also on the show for the first time in full appearance, like as a podcast, in November of 2020. Then in May and July of 2020, we did some reactions to the Inquisition and King Machine. And now, years later, the album is finally getting released. Of course, Omnipresence released July 1st, 2022. It's their second full-length album. Of course, A Fitting Revenge is from Rochester, New York. And this album was mixed by Jack Daniels, who has worked with War of Ages, and mastered by John Douglas, who has worked with Rings of Saturn, Megadeth, and Carnifex. And of course, A Fitting Revenge is Ledwing on guitar and vocals, Lucy on bass, and Brian on guitar. And currently, they have like kind of a bit of a, they're searching for a drummer. They got a bit of a rotating drummer situation right now, but they're searching for one, so they'll have a drummer soon, of course. And so let's get into this album. Now, all of you, of course, hopefully already saw the episode I just did with them, going deep into this album, talking all things this album. And if I'm going to be honest, as I always am, I heard the album. I heard before talking to them about it, I heard the album about 4 or 5 times, but that is never, I swear to God, like that's like, and I'm the weird one here. I'm the weird one here. I need to hear an album like 20 fucking times before it really starts to seep in. And now, since recording that episode and recording this reaction, I have heard it enough times, and I have a like just as good of, if not better, but a different opinion of where I was at when I actually got the opportunity to be able to do a podcast with them. It's this album. This album is fucking Omnipresence is fucking insane. Ledwing on the episode asked me about the first song, the first track, and I definitely didn't go as deep into that as I would have wanted to now, because it leads in with this awesome, trippy, sci-fi driving fucking riff that look, while staying upbeat, also stays very fucking heavy. But like, I did not expect it to sound the way it did from the get-go. It's like it's just, you gotta hear it. You gotta hear it. It's just this real unique, specific intro to the album, but then it bleeds into something really heavy. And the first track is a shorter one. Honestly, I don't know how long it is, but it's a shorter one compared to the rest. It's a pretty long album. I think it's like an hour. It's like at least a full hour long album for sure. It's full length is what we're talking here. And this first one really, wow. I mean, especially going into it after having talked to them, it kind of gave me a different, of course I'd heard it before I got to talk to them. They were generous enough to have sent the album to me about a couple months ago. So I got to hear it. I got a chance to hear it quite a bit before actual release. And I can never thank them enough for that. They're one of the first bands that has ever done that for us. And that really meant a lot to me. But having said that, like, that first track is so unique. Like, it's so weird. Like, when you, all right, I'm gonna sit down and listen to a heavy metal album, that is not the first sound you expect to hear. But then when it gets going, not to say, like, it's what I guess what I'll say about it is that it sets the stage. It sets the stage perfectly for the entire rest of the album. It really does. It really does, because we have so many places to go on this one. And the next stop I'm going to make right here is the track, The Collapse. Absolutely one of my fucking favorite tracks on the solo. I love it. I love it when bands really let really allow a bass line, really let the bass guitar be highlighted. I'm a fucking 6-string guitarist personally. I play all the time, but I love it so much when bands let those other instruments, like, because everybody loves the 6-string, right? You know, and now we got 8, 9, whatever, fucking million strings, whatever. But when bands really let the fucking drums or the fucking bass shine, have their moment, that always sticks out to me, and I always fucking appreciate that. And there's an incredible bassline intro on The Collapse. I absolutely adore it. It's totally one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite songs in the album. It has a very blackened behemoth feel, but also like almost a Bodum feel at times in the guitar, and it has just absolutely one of the most beautiful solos I've heard in quite a long, you know. That's absolutely one of the things that I love about A Fitting Revenge. And one of my favorite things that I found about, like, you know, this is one of the bands that I found through doing this podcast at all. I would have potentially never found this band unless I had been doing this show. Having found them and having listened to all their music, they are the Ledwing and now his cohort, if you will, Brian. These guys love the guitar, and I maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe this is just me, but I kind of feel like people that love the guitar also love the other instruments. Like, we're just kind of like instrument people, and like we love it when other shit gets to shine. The drums, the bass, the vocals, you know, when other shit gets to shine. To me, at least personally, as a listener, that's always spectacular to me. That's always spectacular to me. And I think The Collapse on this album, on Omnipresence, The Collapse is one of my, like, going through the first, I mean, of course, the first track is fucking incredible. And then we get the Infinite and the Inquisition. Don't get me, every track on this album is fucking amazing. But then we get to The Collapse, and that one's a little bit different. That one all of a sudden pops to me a little bit. And it's a big reason is because of that intro fucking bass, that bass line right at the top. And then we fucking moved to the King Machine, which, okay, like I said earlier, back in 2020, we already did a reaction. Yeah, we already did a reaction to the King Machine and the Inquisition. So that's why I'm not going to focus that much on those two tracks for this reaction or reflection, because I already kind of like dove into those tracks when they came out. But after that one, The Wheel is the next one on the album. And I gotta say, this one didn't strike me at first, but after a few more listens, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my Odin. This shit is the mad notes, yo. It's fucking, it starts real fucking jumpy, almost like a New Yorky hardcore kind of feel. Of course, they're from New York, so of course you're gonna have some like hardcore feel in it. That bleeds into the middle section. Has a really great haunting ass middle section, like real, it kind of slows it down for a second, but it's real fucking creepy and haunting that leads into this amazing fucking guitar solo. But then that even bleeds into like an almost Iron Maiden riff like build. Like it's, man, the song The Wheel from top to bottom is absolutely outstanding. And then I gotta go to and then normally I don't do this. Normally I try to pick tracks that are really far apart to focus on for these reactions and reflections, but I can't help myself with this one because I love The Wheel so much. And then the reprieve, I don't know how you say it, but it's a 1 minute and 47-second long solo song with that the first chunk. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that till right now, but it totally plays off The Wheel. Like, because they are the next two tracks in order on the album. So it totally plays off The Wheel. I didn't even think about that till right now. That's amazing. But it totally plays off The Wheel, and it's an entirely only 1 minute 47 seconds long, but it's an entirely instrumental song that starts off with these crippling, haunting piano that just put it at the top of any of your favorite horror films of all time, and it's perfect. And then it bleeds into this solo, this guitar section that with the okay, I can only speak from my perspective. All right, I can only speak from anybody else that hears this might hear something totally different, and I appreciate that and respect it. But when I heard this, when I heard the way this song moved, and once the guitar came in and I started to hear the soloing, some of the best soloing I've heard in ages, and the piano in the background, to me, only to me is all I can say, is that it totally felt very Trans-Siberian Orchestra to me. This section of the album, this track on the album, the reprieve, and that is, coming from me, one of the highest compliments I can give, honestly, because I have seen the Trans-Siberian Orchestra perform over 15 times. They're one of my favorite live performances of all time. So for me to say that, that's coming from me, that's high praise. Not that that means anything, but like that coming from me, that does mean a lot to me to hear. Because if you haven't, come on, here's what I'm talking about right now. Omnipresence, A Fitting Revenge. They have an album that already, and I'm not even done yet. They go from fucking amazing melodics Behemoth Bodom-esque shit to fucking hardcore Hatebreed-esque shit, all the way to Trans-Siberian Orchestra-esque shit. We've covered the gambit. We're covering all of my favorite artists in one album. This is fucking insane to me. So the Reprieve is a middle song. Not, I don't know if it's exactly middle, but it's toward the middle of the album. Instrumental, guitar solo, piano solo that is absolutely fucking beyond beautiful and beyond fucking again. I'll say it again. You know what? It's always hard when you're put on the spot, and I just put myself on the spot. I at the moment cannot think of a better guitar solo I've heard this year. At the moment, I could be wrong. And maybe as soon as I hit the end of recording of this, I'll think of it. But at the moment, that is my favorite guitar solo of the year, for sure. For sure. Because that's literally, it's a fucking instrumental. And I keep going back to it. I keep listening to it over and over and over because I can't get enough of that guitar. It's so fucking amazing. So the next one I wanted to that's not a good segue, but the next one I want to talk about is The Overthrow. This is 2 tracks away from The Reprieve, and it just has amazing vocals, a great like party, like hardcore driving groove to it. It's absolutely one of my favorite songs in the album. I love it because like I love it when they do the fucking do-do-do-do-do and then the fucking vocals and then do-do-do-do-do and then the fucking vocals and that kind of thing. And that's what this song is. It's very up. It's very up. It brings the fucking show together. And I absolutely love tracks like this. It's one of my favorite songs in the album, absolutely. And then, of course, we have to round off by talking about the final section, the Monarchy, part 1, 2, and 3. God damn it! Let me make sure I'm getting that right. That it's the Monarchy. Yep. All right. Got it. Monarchy, part 1, 2, and 3. And I swear to God, like when I first listened to these final 3, this final 3 track epic, it was like, because when I looked at the time signatures, I was like, well, what's going on here? And then I listened to the songs, and it's very clearly an intro, a middle, and an ending. But those 3 sections, I didn't get it until I heard it. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like, because they in reality, they are 3 different parts of the same song. But when you actually hear them put together, it makes so much more sense to split them up in the way that A Fitting Revenge did. It really makes a lot of sense to have them be a part 1, 2, and 3. The only part that's a little funky, is the ending of part 1 bleeding into part 2. That's the only part that's a little, when part 1 ends, it just throws me off a little when it goes into part 2. But outside of that, oh my God. And I will say, because having said that, we're talking about 3 sections of a singular entity. So of course, the middle is going to be my favorite. Monarchs Part 2 is absolutely my favorite of 3, because that's where we go nuts. That's where we don't need to do an intro or an outro. That's where it's just the meat. It's the meat on the bone. And the part 2 is absolutely one of my favorite songs in the album. It bleeds from part 1. It does bleed in from it really well. But it hits the ground not running, but sprinting. It has pummeling guitar and drums with incredible bass. And the I feel like in a lot of ways, between the Monarchy Part 2, Overthrow, The Wheel, especially when we get into the back half of this album, and honestly, maybe even a little bit in the front half, maybe even a little bit on the Infinite and the Inquisition, honestly. I really feel like that's where these are the parts where every member of the band gets to shine. This is when they came to this is where I hear them coming together the best, honestly. I think everybody shines the best especially on these latter half of the album, or the second half of the album. They really, I think everybody really gets a chance to shine, and especially on that Monarchy Part 2. Like, that's just like, this album is more of an experience than it is an album. And when I hear Monarchy Part 2, it's like watching the grand finale at a fireworks show. Like, I just feel like I'm hearing everybody pop in the most beautiful and amazing display. It's just absolutely breathtaking. Now, we would never, as always, we never, ever, ever pigeonhole anyone on this show. We just use other sounds to describe the sound that we're hearing, in case anybody's hearing this that maybe has never heard this music before and maybe wants to get into it. Maybe is just trying to get into it. Well, what I would say is, if you're trying to get into A Fitting Revenge, if you're a fan of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Children of Bodom, Behemoth, Thy Art Is Murder, Hatebreed, hardcore in general, Lamb of God, Iron Maiden, melodic or groove metal, you will love A Fitting Revenge. If you're into any of those things, and try to pigeonhole that. Did I not just cover the gambit? Try to there's no pigeonholing that sound. That's basically encompassing like a ton of different subgenres. From top to bottom, it has such an incredibly massive sound that somehow, while being as massive as it is and sounding like something that you should hear in a gigantic, beautiful, old, grand theater, they do that. A Fitting Revenge does that. And then at the same time, they also give you the feeling at times of just the darkest, dingiest, dirtiest, most violent fucking mosh pit that you've ever been in your life. So they tread that, and that's kind of what I mean, is they tread that line between Trans-Siberian Orchestra and Hatebreed. You know what I mean? Who the fuck else walks that line? Like, they bring both sides of that thunder, and it's fucking amazing to me. Yeah, it's just, like I said earlier, it really is more of an experience listening to this album than just listening to an album. It really is something totally different. I've never really heard a band marry those kind of sounds before, but of course, someone like Ledwing, such a amazing and melodic driven guitarist as he is, but yet also he's from New York, so I'm sure he's influenced by the hardcore scene a bit, and you hear all of that, and it's it's just so, this is, I don't know how else to say it other than this is a special one. Um, Omnipresence. This is a really special album, and I cannot recommend it enough. I cannot speak highly of it enough. I think everybody there are amazing musicians, and I know that a lot of people that worked on this album, if you all heard the fucking last episode, um a lot of people on this album are no longer in the band. Massive lineup changes. But having said that, I have already had the opportunity to talk to the new guitarist on the last episode. Please watch that. And I have not had the chance to talk to the new bassist yet, but I really feel like what they're going to do next is going to be even more nasty. It's going to be even more monstrous. And I cannot fucking wait. But I am just so thrilled and happy and excited for them for this release. I think it's an amazing fucking album. I cannot recommend it enough. I think everybody should go. Links in the description below to pick up physical or digital copies, however the fuck you do it. I do both. Be hard, motherfuckers. Do both. And I cannot speak highly enough of this band or this album. Again, like, A Fitting Revenge was one of the first bands ever to come on this show once we moved to video right at the top of pandemic back in 2020. They haven't been on since 2020. It's been 2 years. And that really blows my mind. And the fact that we're still the ones that they hit up for the release of this next one. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, absolutely means the world to me from the bottom of my fucking heart. And I know they were just on to talk all things the album, get into the nitty gritty of it a bit and this and that. But I also know that they have a show coming up this month in July in New York. Look up All Things A Fitting Revenge. Links in the description below to fucking, if you're in that area, be sure to go see that. But I would give my left pinky toe to talk to them again. The whole band too, everyone. I'd love to talk to everyone after that show is played, after they all got to play their first show together, after the release of the album and everything. I'd love to be able to talk to them again very, very, very soon, just to see how it's all going. And fingers crossed, fingers and toes and fucking dick crossed and ears and eyes, everything crossed, that they end up playing a show in Michigan before the end of the year and we get to see them live. That would be fucking amazing. So that, you know what, that's gonna do it. Absolutely, for this edition of Dark Reflections for A Fitting Revenge, Omnipresence, brand new album out as of this release yesterday, but whenever, July 1st, 2020, Omnipresence out now. Everybody be sure to check it out. Tons of links in the description below. I love these guys to death, these guys and gals to death. They are fucking, you know, from the start of this show, since we moved to camera at the beginning of pandemic, absolutely some of our favorite sons. And they are, this is as far, hey guys, if you're everyone in A Fitting Revenge, if you're seeing this, Lost in the Dark podcast, as far as I'm concerned, is as much as your home as it is mine, and you are welcome here anytime you want, and for anything you want, even if you don't have anything to promote, just to hang out. Fuck it, let's hang out. Whatever. It's that's what it is. These guys are brothers, and I love this. I love this band to death. Ever since Tempest, that first album blew me away, and this album, even as much as I still love the first album, this album kind of blows it out of the water. I still love the first album to death so much, but this album really steps up, kind of like the Convalescence. But yeah, these guys are fucking amazing, and I cannot recommend them enough. Links in the description below. That's going to do it for this edition of Dark Reactions. I cannot thank A Fitting Revenge enough for being on the show and sending us the album early and letting us do all this. Thank you guys so much. You have no fucking idea what that all means to us. You guys are the best. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And everyone, Crypt Crew, my friends, raise your fucking horns and bang your goddamn heads to some Omnipresence by A Fitting Revenge. We love you all to death. Good night. Lost in the dark.